The sand burned through Taiho's torn boots. Each step felt like walking on hot coals. His throat was so dry it hurt to breathe. The twin suns of Cravash Prime beat down on him without mercy. He had been walking for 2 days now, maybe 3. Time lost all meaning when you were dying. His ship lay somewhere behind him, a smoking wreck scattered across the red dunes. The asteroid field had come out of nowhere. One moment he was on course to the medical colony. The next moment alarms were screaming and metal was tearing apart. He had crashed hard. The emergency beacon was dead. The water recycler was destroyed. He had grabbed one canteen and started walking. That canteen was empty now. Taiho stumbled and fell to his knees. The sand scorched his palms. He wanted to lie down and sleep. Just close his eyes and let the desert take him. But something in him refused to give up. His father had always said humans were stubborn creatures. Too stubborn to know when to quit. He pushed himself back to his feet and kept walking. The survival suit he wore was supposed to regulate temperature and preserve moisture. It was failing. Large tears in the fabric let the heat pour in. The cooling system made pathetic whirring sounds before dying completely. Sweat soaked through his clothes and evaporated instantly. His body was cooking from the inside out. Taiho thought about Earth. Green grass, cool rain, rivers of fresh water. He thought about his sister Jian and her kids. He was supposed to visit them next month. He thought about the colonists waiting for those medical supplies. People would die because he failed to deliver them. His vision blurred. The horizon shifted and swam. He was hallucinating now. That happened in the final stages of dehydration. The brain started shutting down, creating images that were not real. But when he crested the next dune, the image did not disappear. A fortress rose from the desert like a black tooth. Massive walls carved from dark stone stretched toward the sky. Strange banners hung from the battlements marked with symbols he had never seen before. Towers jutted up at odd angles. It looked ancient and alien and impossibly real. Taiho laughed. The sound came out as a dry rasp. Of course it was real. Of course there was a fortress in the middle of this wasteland. Because the universe had a sick sense of humor. He half walked, half stumbled down the dune toward it. His legs barely worked anymore. He fell several times. Each time it took longer to get back up. But he kept moving. The fortress gates loomed larger with each step. Massive metal doors 3 times his height, covered in dents and scratches from what looked like claw marks. Taiho reached the gates and collapsed against them. He raised one weak fist and knocked. The sound was pathetic against the huge door. He knocked again. Nothing happened. He slid down to sit in the sand, his back against the metal. This was it then. He would die here at the gates. At least he had made it somewhere. At least he had not died alone in the dunes. His eyes closed. The sound of metal grinding woke him. The gates were opening. Taiho tried to move, but his body would not respond. Strong hands grabbed him and dragged him forward. The world spun. He saw stone corridors, torches burning with blue flame. And then he saw them. They were massive, 7 or 8 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in scales that shimmered with colors, green and blue and purple shifting in the light. Their faces were elongated, reptilian, with golden eyes that glowed like molten metal. Claws tipped their fingers, each one as long as his thumb and sharp as knives. Rows of teeth filled their mouths when they opened them to speak. Taiho had traveled to many worlds. He had met many alien species, but he had never seen anything like these creatures. They dropped him on the stone floor. He lay there gasping, too weak to even sit up. The creatures surrounded him. They spoke to each other in a language of hisses and clicks. He could not understand the words, but he understood the tone. They were discussing what to do with him. One of them stepped forward. Female, he thought. Slightly smaller than the others, but radiating authority. Scars crossed her scales in pale lines. A jagged mark ran from her eye to her jaw. She wore armor made of dark metal and leather. A long blade hung at her side. She crouched down and looked at him with those burning golden eyes. When she spoke, it was in accented standard. "You trespass on sacred ground, soft skin." Taiho tried to speak, but only managed to croak. His tongue was swollen. His throat felt full of sand. The female tilted her head, studying him like a scientist studies an insect. "Human," she said. "I have heard of your kind, small, weak, you die easily." The other creatures hissed. It sounded like laughter. "You came through the desert," the female continued. "Most species die within hours out there. Yet you made it to our gates. Interesting. She stood and looked down at him. Her tail swished behind her, scraping across the stone floor. "I am Commander Shira," she said. "This is Haven Carthrax, home of the Vrakesh warrior caste. You have entered our domain without permission. That alone is punishable by death." Tejo managed to find his voice. It came out as barely a whisper. "Water, please." Shira's eyes narrowed. "Water is earned here, human. Not given freely. It is our most precious resource. Every drop is rationed. Every drop must be deserved." She began to circle him slowly. Her claws clicked on the stone with each step. "You have two choices, Softskin. Two paths before you." She stopped in front of him. "First path, you serve us. You prove your worth in whatever way you can. You work, you obey. You earn your water and your food and your place here." She leaned down, her face close to his. He could see every sharp tooth in her mouth. "Second path, we feast. Your meat will not go to waste. We will honor your sacrifice by consuming every part of you. Your bones will be ground to dust. Nothing will remain," the other Vrakesh hissed again. They moved closer, their golden eyes fixed on him hungrily. Tejo's heart hammered in his chest. His survival instinct screamed at him. He was going to die here, either slowly through servitude or quickly in their teeth, but he was still alive. And while he was alive, he could find a way to survive. "I serve," he whispered. Shira's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. It was not comforting. "Good choice, human. Perhaps you are not as foolish as you look." She gestured to two of the warriors. "Take him below. Give him water, barely enough to live. Put him with the others." They grabbed him again and dragged him away. Tejo caught one last glimpse of Shira watching him go. Her golden eyes glowed in the torchlight. He had escaped death by thirst only to find something far worse. A haven of warriors who saw him as either a servant or a meal, and he had no idea how to survive either fate. The lower chambers were dark and damp. Water dripped somewhere in the distance, each drop echoing like a taunt. The warriors threw Tejo into a small room, carved from the same black stone as the rest of the fortress. They tossed a canteen after him. It hit the floor with a hollow sound. Tejo crawled to it with shaking hands. He unscrewed the cap and drank. The water was warm and tasted like metal, but it was the most beautiful thing he had ever experienced. He forced himself to drink slowly, even though every cell in his body screamed for more. He knew if he drank too fast after being so dehydrated, he would vomit it all back up. When the canteen was empty, he lay on the cold stone floor and closed his eyes. His body ached everywhere. Burns covered his skin from the twin suns. His feet were blistered and bloody, but he was alive. For now, footsteps approached. Tejo opened his eyes to see another alien enter the room. This one was not Vrakesh. It stood about 5 feet tall and was covered in gray fur. Its face was flat with large dark eyes. It wore ragged clothing that might have been nice once. "You are new," the creature said in standard. Its voice was soft and sad. "I am Velis. I have been here 3 years. Tejo sat up slowly. 3 years. Velis nodded and sat down against the wall. "I was a merchant. My ship had engine trouble. I landed here looking for help. They made me a servant instead." The creature's eyes were distant. "I repair things. Fix their equipment. They let me live as long as I am useful. Have you tried to escape?" Velis made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Many have tried. The desert kills faster than the Vrakesh do, and if you somehow survive the desert, they hunt you down. They always find you. They have excellent trackers." Velis looked at him with something like pity. "This is your life now, human. Accept it or die fighting it. Either way, you will not leave Haven Carthrax." Over the next few days, Tejo learned the brutal truth of his situation. The Vrakesh were a warrior culture built on strength and honor. They valued combat above all else. Their society was organized into castes, warriors at the top, servants at the bottom. Water was rationed strictly. Every drop was measured and recorded. You earned your daily ration through work. The servants came from many species. Some had crashed like Tejo. Others had been captured in raids. A few had made the mistake of wandering too close to Vrakesh territory. All of them were trapped. The Vrakesh were not cruel for the sake of cruelty. They simply saw weakness as something to be exploited. If you could not fight, you served. If you could not serve, you became food. It was their way. It had been their way for thousands of years. On his 3rd day, Tejo was summoned. 2 guards brought him to the forge, a massive chamber filled with heat and smoke and the sound of hammering metal. Weapons lined the walls, armor hung from hooks. The air shimmered with temperature. A huge male Vrkesh stood at the largest anvil. His scales were dark green with scars across his chest and arms. He looked at Taiho the way someone looks at a broken tool they are considering throwing away. "I am Corvin," he said. His voice was deep and rough. "You work for me now. You haul ore. You maintain weapons. You clean. You do not speak unless spoken to. You do not rest unless I say. You do not eat or drink unless you earn it." He stepped closer. "If you fail, you starve. If you disobey, you die. Understand?" Taiho nodded. "I understand." "Good." Corvin pointed to a pile of dark rocks in the corner. "Those need to be moved to the furnace." "Get started." The work was brutal. The ore was heavy. Each piece weighed at least 30 pounds. The pile seemed endless. Taiho's body was still recovering from his ordeal in the desert. His muscles screamed with every lift. His back felt like it would break. The heat from the furnace made it hard to breathe, but he kept working. The Vrkesh who worked in the forge watched him with interest. They made bets on how long he would last. 1 hour, some said. 2 at most. Humans were known to be weak. Fragile, they broke easily. Taiho proved them wrong. He worked through the pain. He worked through the exhaustion. He focused on one rock at a time. Lift, carry, drop, repeat. Do not think about how many are left. Just focus on the next one. And the next hours passed. The Vrkesh stopped betting. They started watching in silence. The human was still moving, still working. His movements were slower now, but he had not stopped. He had not asked for rest. He had not complained. When the pile was finally moved, Taiho stood swaying on his feet. His vision blurred. His hands were bleeding from where the rough ore had cut through his skin. But the job was done. Corvin approached and studied him. Something shifted in the Vrkesh's golden eyes. Maybe surprise, maybe respect. It was hard to tell. "You are tougher than you look, human," Corvin said. He tossed Taiho a canteen. "Drink, you earned it." Taiho drank deeply. The water had never tasted better. Over the following weeks, Taiho settled into a routine. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. The days blurred together. His body adapted. The blisters on his hands hardened into calluses. His muscles grew stronger. He learned to conserve his energy. He learned which Vrkesh to avoid and which ones were less hostile. He also learned by watching. Taiho had always been good at fixing things. As an engineer and pilot, he understood how systems worked. He noticed that much of the Vrkesh equipment was old and poorly maintained. Their weapons were powerful but crude. Their armor was strong but inflexible. They had technology, but they did not truly understand it. One day, Corvin's main forge malfunctioned. The plasma heating system shut down completely. Corvin roared in frustration and started hitting it with a hammer. That was the Vrkesh way. If something breaks, hit it until it works or breaks completely. Taiho watched for a moment, then spoke. "I can fix it." Corvin stopped and looked at him. "What?" "The forge. I can fix it. I worked with plasma systems on my ship." Corvin's eyes narrowed. "If you are lying, I will break your arms." "I am not lying." Corvin stepped aside. "Fix it then, human. You have 1 hour." Taiho examined the forge carefully. The problem was simple. A clogged fuel line and a misaligned ignition coil. He used tools from around the forge to clear the blockage and adjust the coil. Within 30 minutes, the forge roared back to life, burning hotter and more stable than before. Corvin stared at the working forge, then at Taiho. The other Vrkesh in the room had stopped working to watch. "How did you do that?" Corvin asked. "I understand the system," Taiho said simply. "I see how the parts work together. Where humans come from, we build things like this. We maintain them. We improve them." Word spread through Haven Carthrax. The human could fix things. The human understood their machines better than they did. Commander Shira heard the reports with interest. She summoned Taiho to her chambers. He was brought before her throne, a massive chair carved from a single piece of stone. She sat studying him with those burning golden eyes. "My forge master tells me you have skills," she said, "that you repaired what our own engineers could not." "Yes, Commander. My armor needs repair." She gestured to a stand where her battle armor rested. "The right shoulder joint is damaged. It restricts my movement in combat." "Fix it." Taiho examined the armor carefully. It was beautifully made, but the design was flawed. The joint was too rigid. He could fix it and make it better. He worked through the night using Corvin's forge. He not only repaired the damaged joint but redesigned it completely. He added flexibility while maintaining strength. He balanced the weight distribution. When he was finished, the armor moved like liquid metal. Shira tested it the next morning. She swung her arms, twisted, moved through combat forms. Her eyes widened slightly, the closest thing to surprise he had seen from her. "This is better than before," she said. She looked at him differently now. Not as prey, not quite as an equal, but as something in between. Something useful. "What were you before you crashed here, human?" "A pilot," Taiho said. "An engineer. A problem solver." Shira's mouth curved into that unsettling smile. "You are wasted hauling ore." She called to her guards. "Take him to better quarters. Increase his water ration. He serves me directly now." As the guards led him away, Shira's voice followed him. "Do not mistake practicality for kindness, Taiho. You are still prey here, still weak. But useful prey lives longer than useless prey. Remember that." Taiho remembered. He also remembered that he was alive and no longer just surviving. He was adapting. And humans were very good at adapting. Taiho's new quarters were still small, still carved from black stone. But they had a real bed instead of just floor. He had a basin for washing. His water ration doubled. It was not luxury, but compared to where he had been, it felt like paradise. More importantly, his work changed. Instead of hauling ore and doing mindless labor, he was brought problems to solve. Broken equipment, malfunctioning weapons, systems that no one understood. Taiho fixed them all. He had always been good with his hands. Growing up on Earth, he had taken apart every machine he could find just to see how they worked. His father called it destructive curiosity. His teachers called it engineering aptitude. Whatever the name, it served him well now. The Vrakesh technology was interesting, powerful but inefficient. They had acquired much of it through conquest or trade but never truly learned the principles behind it. They knew which buttons to push but not why those buttons worked. Taiho understood the why. That made all the difference. He also started learning their language. At first just words here and there. The Vrakesh found it amusing when he tried to speak their tongue. His human mouth could not make all the hissing sounds properly, but he practiced. He listened. He learned. Language was more than words. It was culture. It was understanding. Every language reflected how its speakers saw the world. The Vrakesh language had 17 different words for honor, and only 3 for mercy. It had detailed terms for different types of combat, but almost no words for art or beauty. It told him everything about who they were. Corvin became something like a mentor, though he would never admit it. The big warrior watched Taiho work with increasing interest. One day while Taiho was calibrating a plasma rifle, Corvin spoke. "Why do humans build such complicated machines?" Taiho looked up. "What do you mean?" "Your species is weak, small, slow, no claws. No scales, no natural weapons. Yet you survive. You spread across the galaxy." "How?" Taiho thought about it. "We build tools. We use our minds to make up for what our bodies lack. A human with a good tool is stronger than most aliens without one." Corvin considered this. "We take tools from others. We do not build them." "That is a weakness," Taiho said carefully. Corvin's eyes flashed. For a moment, Taiho thought he had gone too far. But then the Vrakesh laughed. A deep rumbling sound. "You have courage, little human. Stupid courage, but courage." He leaned against the anvil. "You are right, though. We are warriors, the best in this sector. But we do not create. We take, we conquer. And when things break, we struggle to fix them. I could teach you," Taiho offered. "The basics, at least. How systems work, how to maintain them properly." Corvin shook his head. "Our culture does not value such things. To work with hands like a servant is beneath a warrior. That is why we keep servants." It was a truth that frustrated Taiho. The Vrakesh had so much potential, but their own pride held them back. They could be great builders, great innovators. Instead, they focused only on fighting. It was wasteful. But it was also an opportunity. If they needed someone who could build and fix and improve their technology, then Taiho made himself indispensable. Every problem he solved made him more valuable. Every improvement he made bought him more security. He was still a prisoner, but he was a useful prisoner. That was better than being dead. His reputation grew. Warriors who had ignored him before now nodded when he passed. Some even asked him questions about their weapons or equipment. Taiho answered carefully, always respectful, always useful. One day, Commander Shira summoned him again. He found her in the war room, a large chamber filled with maps and battle plans. She stood over a holographic display showing terrain features. "We have a problem," she said without greeting. "Our scout vehicles keep breaking down in the northern wastes. The sand gets into the engines. 3 vehicles lost this month alone. My warriors are forced to patrol on foot. It is inefficient." Tejo studied the hologram. "May I see one of the vehicles?" She took him to the motor pool. The scout vehicles were open-topped, fast, designed for rough terrain. But they had no proper filtration systems. The engines were exposed. Of course, sand was destroying them. "I can fix this," Tejo said. "I need materials. Metal sheeting. Filter mesh. Some time to work?" "You have 2 days," Shira said. "If you succeed, you will be rewarded. If you fail, you will be punished." Tejo worked frantically. He designed sealed engine compartments with proper air intake filters. He added protective panels to vulnerable areas. He improved the suspension for better handling in sand. He worked 18 hours straight, sleeping in brief snatches, driven by fear and determination. On the morning of the 3rd day, Shira had given him an extra day without saying so. He presented the modified vehicle. She examined it thoroughly, then ordered a test run. A warrior took it into the desert and drove hard for 6 hours. When he returned, the engine was still running smoothly. No sand damage, no problems. Shira looked at the vehicle, then at Tejo. "You do good work, human." She ordered all scout vehicles modified to his design. She also ordered something else, a small workshop for Tejo with proper tools and equipment. It was a significant gesture in Vrakesh culture. Giving him space and resources meant acknowledging his value. That night, as Tejo organized his new workshop, a young Vrakesh warrior entered. Female, smaller than most, with bright blue-green scales. Her armor looked new. "I am Mirai," she said. "Junior warrior. I wish to understand how you do this and do what? Make things work. Improve them. The others say you have magic. I do not believe in magic. I think you have knowledge. I wish to learn." Tejo studied her. Most Vrakesh warriors would never admit they wanted to learn from a human. That would be beneath their pride. This one was different. "Why?" he asked. "I am not the strongest warrior," Mirai said simply. "I am not the fastest or the most skilled. I must find other advantages." "Knowledge is an advantage," Tejo smiled. "Knowledge is the best advantage. Sit down. I will teach you." That night was the first of many. Mirai came to his workshop whenever she had free time. She asked endless questions. About humans. About Earth. About technology and engineering and how things worked. She was curious in a way most Vrakesh were not. She wanted to understand, not just use. Through Mirai, Tejo learned more about the Vrakesh, about their clans and their history and their complicated honor codes. She told him about Shira's rise to power, how she had fought 7 challengers in one day to claim her position, how her own brother had been one of those challengers and she had killed him to prove her strength. "Does that seem cruel to you?" Mirai asked. "By human standards?" "Yes," Tejo admitted. "But I am learning that strength means different things to different species. For humans, strength is often about endurance, about surviving, about adapting to anything the universe throws at us. You are here because of that strength," Mirai said. "Most species would have died in the desert. You survived. Most servants give up within weeks. You thrive. Commander Shira notices such things. What does she think of me?" Mirai's eyes glinted with amusement. "She is not certain what to think of you. You are not like other servants. You do not cower. You do not beg. You simply work and improve things and make yourself necessary." It confuses her. Vrakesh understands strength and weakness. You are weak but also strong. It does not fit in our categories. "Good," Tejo said. "If I fit in their categories, they would know how to treat me. This way I make my own category." Weeks turned into months. Tejo's position became secure. He was no longer a servant. He was a technical advisor, though no one used that exact term. He had authority to requisition materials and direct work crews. Warriors consulted him on equipment issues. Even Shira relied on his expertise, but he was still a prisoner. Still property in their eyes. Still someone who could be killed or eaten if he ceased being useful. The knowledge sat in the back of his mind always, a constant reminder that he walked a dangerous line. One night, alone in his workshop, Tejo allowed himself to think about escape. His emergency beacon was dead, but he could build a new one. He knew where the Vrakesh kept their communication equipment. He could send a signal to human space. Someone would come eventually, but then what? He looked around his workshop, at the projects he was working on, at the life he had built here. Strange as it was, this place had become familiar. These aliens had become known to him. Was rescue still what he wanted? He did not have an answer, not yet. So he kept working and kept adapting and kept surviving, because that was what humans did best. They survived anywhere, adapted to anything, and turned every disadvantage into opportunity, even in a haven of warriors who once saw him as a meal. The alarm horns shattered the morning calm. Their sound was harsh and urgent, echoing through every corridor of Haven Carthrax. Tejo dropped the tool he was holding and ran from his workshop. Warriors rushed past him, weapons already in hand. The fortress transformed from a place of routine into a war machine in seconds. Mirai found him in the confusion. Her scales were dark with stress markings. The Drav Koresh clan is coming. Their scouts were spotted 2 hours north. They march on our haven. Why? Tejo asked. Water, territory, the usual reasons for war. Mirai gripped her blade tighter. They are more numerous than us. Commander Shira has called all warriors to defensive positions. Tejo followed the rush of activity to the main courtyard. Shira stood on a raised platform, her armor gleaming. She addressed the assembled warriors in their own language. Tejo's understanding was good enough now to follow most of it. The Drav Koresh come to take what is ours. They think we are weak because our numbers are few. They think our walls will fall easily. They are wrong. We are the warriors of Carthrax. We have held this haven for 3 generations. We will hold it for 3 more. We do not yield. We do not surrender. We fight until victory or death. The warriors roared their approval. They beat their weapons against their shields. The sound was deafening. Shira's eyes found Tejo in the crowd. She gestured for him to approach. He climbed the platform, very aware of every warrior watching him. You cannot fight, Shira said quietly. You are not trained. You would die in moments. I know, Tejo said, but I can help in other ways. How? Your defenses are strong but outdated. I can improve them. I need access to your armory and your equipment storage. And I need time. Shira studied him. War was coming. Every moment counted, but she had learned to trust the human's strange knowledge. You have until tomorrow dawn, she said. That is when they will likely attack. Use whatever resources you need. If your improvements fail, it will not matter. We will all be dead. Tejo worked through the day and into the night. He rigged motion sensors along the walls using scavenged communication equipment. He reinforced the main gate with additional support beams. He found containers of volatile fuel and created improvised explosive traps at key choke points along the approach paths. Corvin found him working and studied what he was doing. You are building traps. Yes, the Drav Koresh have greater numbers, so we need to reduce those numbers before they reach the walls. These will help. This is clever fighting. Not honorable, but clever. Corvin grabbed tools and started helping. Show me what to do. Other warriors joined them. At first reluctantly, then with growing enthusiasm as they understood the purpose. They were still warriors. They still preferred direct combat. But they were not stupid. Survival mattered more than pride. Mirai worked beside Tejo, following his instructions precisely. Will this be enough? She asked quietly. I do not know, Tejo admitted, but it will give us a better chance. Dawn came too quickly. The defenders took their positions. Tejo stood on the wall beside Shira. He had no weapon except a small blade Corvin had given him. You will probably die anyway, the big warrior had said. But die with a blade in your hand. That is the Vrakesh way. The Drav Koresh appeared on the horizon as the twin suns rose. There were hundreds of them. They moved across the sand like a living wave. Their armor was red and black. Their weapons glinted in the light. War drums thundered as they approached. Shira's expression was grim. They outnumber us 3 to 1. Perhaps more. Then we need to be 3 times smarter, Tejo said. The enemy reached the first of his traps. Motion sensors detected them. Explosives detonated in bursts of fire and sand. Warriors fell screaming. The advance hesitated. Confusion rippled through their ranks. The Drav Koresh commander roared orders. They pressed forward, more cautious now but still coming. They hit the second line of traps. More explosions. More casualties. The defenders on the walls cheered, but the enemy kept coming. They reached the walls and began the assault. Ladders rose. Warriors climbed. The fighting became brutal and close. Tejo watched as Vrakesh met Vrakesh in combat. Claws raked. Blades cut. Blood spilled across stone. An explosion shook the eastern wall. The Dravkaresh had brought siege equipment. Part of the wall crumbled. Enemy warriors poured through the breach. Defenders rushed to contain them. The battle devolved into chaos. Tejo saw Corvin in the thick of fighting near the breach. The big warrior was holding back 5 enemies at once, but a section of damaged wall was collapsing above him. Corvin did not see it. He was too focused on the fight. Tejo ran without thinking. He grabbed Corvin and pulled with all his strength. They fell backwards together just as tons of stone crashed down where Corvin had been standing. The rubble buried 3 Dravkaresh warriors. Corvin looked at the fallen stone, then at Tejo. "You saved my life, human." "We are even now," Tejo said. "You gave me water when I was dying." Corvin laughed, a wild sound in the middle of battle. He stood and pulled Tejo up with him. "Then let us both survive this day. Stay close to me." The fighting raged for hours. The traps and improved defenses made the difference. The Dravkaresh could not break through. Every breach was sealed. Every ladder was thrown back. The defenders held. Finally, as the sun reached its peak, the enemy commander sounded the retreat. The Dravkaresh pulled back, dragging their wounded. They left dozens of dead behind. The defenders had lost warriors too, but far fewer than they should have. The survivors stood on the walls and watched the enemy fade back into the desert. Then they began to cheer. They had won. Haven Karthrak still stood. That night, the Vrakesh held a blood feast. It was their tradition after battle. To honor the dead and celebrate the living. To share meat and drink and stories of the fight. Usually servants were not invited. They ate separately, their own small meals in their own quarters. But Shira ordered differently. "The human fought with us. His cleverness saved many lives. He stands with warriors today." They brought Tejo to the Great Hall. Long tables were set with food and drink. Warriors sat together, their armor still stained with battle. Tejo was given a place among them. It felt surreal. The meat was some kind of desert creature, roasted and spiced. The drink was strong and burned going down. Tejo ate and drank carefully, aware he was being watched, tested. Every action mattered here. Corvin stood and raised his cup. "I speak for Tejo, the human. Today he saved my life. He pulled me from Falling Stone when I was blind to danger. By Vrakesh law, I owe him a life debt. I name him Battle Brother." The hall went silent. Naming someone Battle Brother was serious. It meant obligation. It meant family of a kind. For a Vrakesh to name an alien, especially a servant, was almost unheard of. Corvin stared around the room, daring anyone to object. No one did. He sat back down and clapped Tejo on the shoulder hard enough to bruise. "You are small, but you fight with heart. That is what matters." Other warriors began to speak. About the traps Tejo had built. About the improvements to defenses. About how the soft skin had proven himself useful. The tone was not quite respect, not yet. But it was no longer contempt. It was acknowledgement. Shira watched from her seat at the head table. She said nothing, but her golden eyes tracked everything. When the feast began to wind down and warriors started to drift away, she approached Tejo. "You did well today," she said simply. "We all did well. The warriors fought bravely. They always fight bravely. Bravery is expected. What you did was different. You used your mind as a weapon. You turned our weaknesses into strengths." She paused. "The Vrakesh do not easily change our opinions. We are stubborn, but we also recognize value when we see it." "What are you saying, Commander?"
"I am saying you are no longer a servant."
"You are something else now. We do not have a word for it. You are not warrior. You are not clan. But you are useful, valuable, and after today you have earned the respect of those who matter." She looked at him directly. "That is a dangerous thing, human. Respect means you will be held to higher standards. It also means others may see you as a threat." "I understand, do you?" Shira's expression was unreadable. "You walk a path few aliens have walked in our culture. There will be those who resent you, who see your presence as an insult to our traditions. Be careful." She walked away, leaving Tejo with her warning. But for the first time since crashing on this world, he felt something other than fear or resignation. He felt hope. Small and fragile, but real. He had survived the desert. He had survived servitude. He had survived battle. And in surviving, he had begun to find his place in this strange haven of warriors. Not as prey. Not as servant. As something new. Something they had no name for yet. But he would help them find that name. Because humans were good at making new categories, at refusing to fit in boxes others built, at carving out space where none existed before. That was humanity's real strength. Not technology, not endurance, but the stubborn refusal to accept the world as given, the drive to change it, to adapt it, to survive and thrive no matter what. And Tejo was going to do exactly that. 3 months passed after the battle. Haven Carthrax settled back into routine, but things were different now. Tejo was different. His status had changed in ways that were hard to define but impossible to ignore. He no longer lived in the servant quarters. Shira had given him a proper room in the warrior section of the fortress. It was still small, still carved from black stone, but it had windows that looked out over the desert. It had privacy. It had respect. His workshop expanded. More space, better tools. Warriors brought him their equipment for maintenance now instead of trying to fix things themselves. They asked his advice on modifications. They listened when he spoke. It was strange and gratifying and sometimes frightening. Other servants looked at him with mixed feelings, some with hope. If a human could rise, maybe they could too. Others with resentment. He had left them behind, abandoned them to their fate. Tejo tried to help when he could. He argued for better conditions. He shared food and water when possible, but he could not save everyone. He was barely managing to save himself. The Vrakesh warriors treated him like a strange pet. Useful, but not quite one of them. They were polite now instead of hostile. Some were even friendly. But there was always distance. He was still alien, still other, still fundamentally not Vrakesh. Except for Mirai. She came to his workshop almost every evening. She had become genuinely interested in engineering and problem-solving. More than that, she had become something like a friend. "Tell me more about Earth," she said one night while helping him calibrate a sensor array. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. What is it like to live on a world with so much water? We have stories about water worlds, oceans that stretch forever, rain that falls from the sky. It sounds like paradise." Tejo smiled. "It is not paradise. Humans fight wars on Earth too. We have our own problems, our own cruelty. But yes, water is abundant there. You can drink from streams, swim in lakes, stand in the rain and let it wash over you." Mirai's eyes glazed slightly, imagining it. "I would like to see it someday." "Maybe you will." She looked at him sharply. "You think you will leave here? Return to your people?" "I do not know." It was honest. Tejo had been thinking about it more and more lately. "I came here to die. Instead, I found a way to live. But I am still not free. Not really." "Freedom is complicated," Mirai said. "I am Vrakesh warrior, born to my role, expected to fight and serve and eventually die in battle. Is that freedom? I have never questioned it until I met you. You humans ask many questions. It is unsettling." Before Tejo could respond, alarms blared through the fortress. Different from battle alarms. These were communication alerts. Something was broadcasting nearby. Warriors rushed to the communication center. Tejo followed. Shira was already there listening to the transmission. When she saw Tejo, her expression was unreadable. "It is a human ship," she said. "They picked up an emergency beacon. They are asking if anyone needs rescue." Tejo's heart stopped. His beacon, the one from his crashed ship. It must have finally activated. Maybe damaged systems had slowly repaired themselves. Maybe solar radiation had triggered it. Whatever the reason, his people had found him. "Respond to them," Shira ordered the communication officer. "Tell them we have their pilot." The human ship entered orbit within hours. They sent a shuttle down with a security team. The shuttle landed outside the fortress walls. Tejo stood with Shira and her warriors as the humans emerged. The team leader was a man in his 40s, military-bearing, sharp eyes. His name was Captain Daehyun. He looked at the Vrakesh warriors with barely concealed suspicion and concern. "I am Captain Daehyun of the rescue ship Meridian. We received a distress signal from this location. We are looking for a pilot named Taiho. I am here. Taiho stepped forward. He felt strange looking at other humans after so long among aliens. They seemed small, fragile, familiar. Daehyun's expression shifted to relief. Thank God. We have been searching for weeks. When your ship went down, they assumed you were dead. He looked at the Vrakesh, his hand near his weapon. Are you being held prisoner? Are you injured? It is complicated, Taiho said. Complicated how? You are human. They are not. We are here to extract you. Get your things. We leave immediately. Shira stepped forward. She towered over Daehyun. Her scales caught the light. Her claws were very visible. The human is under our protection. He serves Haven Karthrax. He is valuable to us. Daehyun's hand moved closer to his weapon. He is not property. Human rights and interstellar law protect him. Release him immediately or this becomes an incident. The tension was thick enough to cut. Vrakesh warriors moved their hands to weapons. The human security team raised their rifles. One wrong word would start a bloodbath. Stop, Taiho said loudly. Everyone stop. No one needs to die here. He looked at Daehyun. I appreciate the rescue, truly. But Commander Shira is not lying. I do serve here, not as a slave exactly. It is hard to explain. Then explain it on the ship. We can leave right now. Taiho looked at Shira, at Mirai standing behind her, at Corvin and the other warriors he had worked beside, at the fortress that had been his prison, and then became something else. There are others, Taiho said. Other aliens held as servants. If I leave, what happens to them? That is not our concern, Daehyun said. Our mission is to rescue you. Make it your concern. I will not leave unless they are freed. Daehyun stared at him. You are negotiating? With your captors? Do you have any idea how insane that sounds? I know exactly how it sounds. But these aliens are not monsters. Their culture is different. Brutal in some ways, but not evil. And I have learned something here. I have value. Leverage. I am not going to waste it. Shira's eyes narrowed. You would bargain for the servants? Yes, I would stay if you freed them. All of them. Give them the choice to leave or remain as paid workers. Not slaves, not property. Free beings. The warriors around Shira hissed with anger. This was their way being challenged, their traditions questioned, by a human who owed them his life. But Shira raised a hand for silence. She studied Taiho for a long moment. You are either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both. If I did this, if I broke tradition and freed the servants, what do I gain? You said it yourself. You have value, leverage. I have nothing to gain by giving you what you want. You gain an alliance, Taiho said. Not just with me, with humanity. My people have technology you need. We have resources. We have knowledge. Right now, we are strangers. I could make us partners. Daehyun grabbed Taiho's arm. What are you doing? You cannot make that promise. You do not have that authority. I have the authority of being the only human here, the first contact between our species and theirs. Whatever happens now sets the precedent for everything that follows. I know that. So do they. Shira was silent. The other warriors waited. Everything balanced on this moment. Finally, she spoke. I will consider your proposal, but I will not decide now. This requires discussion with my clan elders. It requires thought. Give me 3 days. Daehyun shook his head. We are not waiting 3 days. Our mission parameters. Change your parameters, Taiho interrupted. 3 days will not hurt. If you truly want to help me, trust me. I know these people. I know their culture. This has to be done carefully. Daehyun looked like he wanted to argue further. But he saw something in Taiho's expression. Determination. Certainty. He sighed. 3 days. Then we leave with or without you. The human team returned to their shuttle. Taiho watched them go. He had just made the most important gamble of his life. If Shira refused, he would have to choose freedom with his people or staying with the servants to help them. If she accepted, everything changed. That night, Mirai found him on the walls. You risked your escape for the servants. Why? Because I was one of them. Because leaving them behind would make me as cruel as the system that trapped them. Because humans believe in a stupid thing called hope. And sometimes that stupidity is the only thing worth fighting for. Mirai was quiet for a moment. I do not understand humans, but I am beginning to think that is a good thing. You make us question. You make us see ourselves differently. That is uncomfortable, but maybe necessary. The 3 days passed slowly. Taiho could not work, could not focus. He waited. The fortress was tense. Warriors argued among themselves. Change was coming and not everyone welcomed it. On the 3rd day, Shira summoned him to the Great Hall. The clan elders sat in a semicircle. These were the oldest warriors, the most traditional. They looked at Taiho like a problem to be solved. Shira stood at the center. We have debated your proposal. Some say we should simply keep you by force. Some say we should kill you for your arrogance. But I say something different. She paused. The hall was utterly silent. I say we change. The Vrakesh are warriors. We are strong. But we are also stubborn. We have kept traditions that no longer serve us. The human shows us a different path. One where strength comes from alliance instead of conquest. Where value is recognized regardless of species. She looked at the elders. I propose we free the servants. All of them. Give them choice. Those who wish to leave may go. Those who wish to stay will be paid and treated fairly. And we will enter into formal alliance with humanity. Trade, exchange of knowledge, partnership. One of the elders stood. He was ancient, his scales gray with age. This breaks every tradition. This spits on our ancestors. Our ancestors are dead, Shira said flatly. We are alive. Our choices survive. Captain Daehyun was not happy. He stood in what used to be Taiho's workshop, arms crossed, face set in hard lines. You are making a mistake. These aliens held you prisoner, forced you to work, threatened to eat you. And now you want to stay here? To build an alliance? Are you suffering from some kind of syndrome? Stockholm Syndrome? Taiho set down the tool he had been holding. I understand your concern, I do. But you have to look at the bigger picture. First contact with a new species does not happen often. How we handle it matters. This could benefit humanity enormously. Or it could get you killed. These Vrakesh are dangerous, so are humans. We have started more wars than I can count. We have done terrible things to each other. Does that make us monsters, or does it make us complicated? Daehyun shook his head. I do not like it. But orders came down from command. You are officially assigned as liaison to the Vrakesh. Diplomatic mission. You report to me weekly, and if anything goes wrong, we extract you immediately. Agreed? After Daehyun left, Taiho began the difficult work of implementing change. Freeing the servants was only the first step. Many of them chose to leave. The human rescue ship transported them to the nearest civilized system. Others stayed, too afraid of the desert or too broken by their time in captivity to face the unknown. Those who stayed needed help. Taiho worked with Shira to establish fair wages, to create contracts, to define rights and protections. It was messy work. The Vrakesh did not understand half the concepts. Employment law was foreign to them. Workers' rights made no sense in a culture built on strength. But they tried. Slowly, painfully, they tried. Not everyone was happy about the changes. A faction of traditional warriors opposed everything. They were led by a warrior named Hayek. He was young for a commander, but respected for his combat skill. His scales were dark red with black markings. His eyes were filled with contempt whenever he looked at Taiho. You bring weakness, Hayek said during a clan meeting. You convince Commander Shira to abandon our ways, to treat servants as equals, to make alliances with softskins. This is not the Vrakesh way. This is corruption, Shira faced him calmly. The Vrakesh way has kept us isolated, surrounded by enemies, fighting for survival every day. Perhaps a new way is needed. The old ways made us strong. The old ways made us alone. There is a difference, Hyok's tail lashed with anger. You have grown weak, Commander, influenced by this human pet. Perhaps it is time for new leadership. The hall went silent. Those words were challenge. In Vrakesh culture, any warrior could challenge a commander for their position. It was traditional. It was law. And it usually ended in death, Shira stood. You invoke the trial of authority? I do. I challenge you for command of Haven Carthrax. Tomorrow at dawn, combat to submission or death. As is our right, Shira's eyes blazed. I accept. Tomorrow we will see who is truly weak. That night, Taiho found Shira alone in the armory. She was checking her weapons. Her movements were precise, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. You are worried, he said. Hyuk is young, fast, strong. I have more experience, but I am older, slower. He has the advantage of youth. She set down the blade she was inspecting. If I lose, he becomes commander. Everything we have built will be destroyed. He will return to the old ways, enslave those we freed. End the alliance. Can you beat him? I do not know. It was the first time Taiho had heard uncertainty in her voice. But I will fight until I cannot fight anymore. That is all any warrior can do. There has to be another way. Some rule or tradition we can use. Shira shook her head. The trial of authority is sacred. It cannot be avoided or changed. Tomorrow I fight. I win or I die, Taiho spent the night thinking. Going through everything he had learned about Vrakesh culture, their laws, their traditions, their honor codes. There had to be something, some loophole or exception. But he found nothing. Dawn came. The entire fortress gathered in the central courtyard. A fighting circle had been marked in the sand. Shira and Hyuk stood on opposite sides. Both wore minimal armor. Both carried traditional blades. This was ritual combat, honorable combat. Only skill and strength mattered. A clan elder spoke the formal words. By right of challenge, Hyuk disputes the command of Shira. They will fight until one yields or dies. The victor leads. The defeated is forgotten. Let the trial begin. They circled each other. Hyuk moved like water, fluid, graceful, deadly. Shira was more solid, more defensive. She had fought hundreds of battles. She knew how to survive. Hyuk struck first. His blade flashed. Shira blocked, but the impact drove her back. He pressed the advantage. Strike after strike, fast and relentless. Shira defended but could not counter. Blood appeared on her arm where his blade found an opening. The watching warriors hissed, some in excitement, some in concern. The fight was going badly for Shira. Taiho watched with growing horror. Shira was losing. He could see it. She was skilled, but Hyuk was better. Younger, stronger. She was being worn down. Hyuk landed a solid hit. His blade cut deep into Shira's shoulder. She stumbled. Her weapon dropped. The crowd roared. It was over. Hyuk raised his blade for the killing strike. Stop, Taiho shouted. He ran into the fighting circle. Warriors grabbed him, pulled him back. You cannot interfere, Corvin hissed. This is sacred combat. To interrupt is death. I am not interrupting. I am invoking challenge assistance. Everyone froze. Even Hyuk lowered his blade. Shira stared at Taiho in shock. The clan elder stepped forward. What did you say? Challenge assistance. I read about it in your histories. An ancient tradition. If a commander is challenged and another warrior believes the challenge is unjust, they may invoke assistance. The commander's ally fights beside them. It tests whether the challenge has merit or is simply ambition. The elder looked uncertain. That tradition has not been used in over a century. Most have forgotten it, but it is still law, still valid. I invoke it, Hyuk snarled. You are not warrior. You are not even Vrakesh. You cannot invoke our laws. The law does not specify species. It says any who stands with the commander. I stand with Shira. I invoke challenge assistance. The elder consulted with the others. They argued in quick, hissing voices. Finally, the elder spoke. The human is correct. The law does not exclude non-Vrakesh. Challenge assistance is granted. But know this, human. If you fight, you must fight by our rules. To submission or death. There is no mercy. Taiho stepped into the circle. He had no armor, no blade. Corvin threw him a short sword. Taiho caught it awkwardly. He had never been trained in combat. He was an engineer, a pilot, not a warrior. Hyuk laughed. You doom yourself and her both. I will kill you in seconds. Then I will finish her. Maybe, Taiho said, but you will have to work for it. Shira struggled to her feet. Blood dripped from her wounds. She looked at Taiho with something in her eyes he had never seen before. Gratitude and fear. Not for herself. For him, together then, she said. Battle brothers fight together, Hyuk charged. He moved like lightning. His blade sought Taiho first, the weaker target. Taiho barely got his sword up in time. The impact nearly broke his arms. He was thrown backward, but the distraction gave Shira time to recover. She lunged at Hyuk from the side. Her blade caught his armor. No real damage, but it made him turn. He had to fight two opponents now instead of finishing one. Taiho realized he could not win through strength or skill. He had neither. But he had something else. He had unpredictability. Vrakesh fought with honor, with tradition, with expected moves and formal techniques. Taiho fought with desperation. He threw sand in Hyuk's face. He feinted high and struck low. He used moves no trained warrior would use because they were beneath dignity. Dirty tricks, street fighting, survival fighting. It worked. Barely. Hyuk was confused, angry. He kept trying to engage in proper combat, and Taiho kept breaking the rules. It slowed him down, made him make mistakes. Shira capitalized on every mistake. Her experience showed. She was wounded but not finished. Together, she and Taiho harried Hyuk. Neither could beat him alone. But together they were enough to hold him off. The fight lasted longer than anyone expected. Minutes stretched. Both sides bled. Both sides tired. Hyuk was still the better fighter, but fighting two opponents was exhausting even for him. Finally, an opening appeared. Hyuk overextended trying to kill Taiho. Shira was there. Her blade found the gap in his armor, slid between his ribs. Not deep enough to kill, but deep enough to cripple. Hyuk fell to his knees. He tried to raise his weapon, but his strength failed. Shira stood over him, her blade at his throat. "Yield," she commanded. Hyuk's eyes burned with hate, but he saw death in Shira's face. He dropped his weapon. "I yield." Shira stepped back. "By law of the trial, I remain commander. You are defeated. You are exiled. Leave this haven." "Never return." Hyuk struggled to his feet. Warriors moved forward to help him, but he pushed them away. He looked at Taiho with pure venom. "This is not over, human. You have made an enemy today." "I have made many enemies," Taiho said. "One more does not frighten me." Hyuk left the circle. He gathered his belongings and walked into the desert. Exile was harsh, but it was better than death. He would survive, and perhaps one day return, but that was a problem for another time. The clan elder raised his voice. "The trial is complete." Commander Shira retains her position. The 6 months passed like water through sand. Haven Carthrax changed so much it was almost unrecognizable from the fortress Taiho had first stumbled into, dying of thirst. The black stone wall still stood tall and imposing. But now a proper landing pad extended from the eastern side. Human ships came and went regularly. Supply vessels, diplomatic shuttles, trade freighters. The desert fortress had become a hub of activity between two species learning to understand each other. Taiho stood on the walls at sunset, watching a cargo ship descend. The twin suns painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. The desert stretched endlessly, beautiful and deadly as always. But it no longer frightened him. He had crossed it on foot and survived. It had taught him what he was capable of. "You are thinking too much again," Mirai said, climbing up to join him. Her armor was different now. Still traditional Vrakesh design, but incorporating human materials and technology. Lighter, more flexible, better protection with less weight. She had been the first warrior to request modifications. Others followed her example. "I am thinking about how much has changed. Everything has changed. It is exhausting." But she smiled when she said it. Mirai had changed too. She spoke standard fluently now. She understood human customs and humor. She had become the primary liaison between Vrakesh warriors and human engineers. A bridge like Taiho. The cargo ship landed smoothly. Its bay doors opened. Human workers began unloading equipment, medical supplies, advanced filtration systems, computer components, trade goods the Vrakesh needed. In exchange, the humans received rare minerals found only on Kravash Prime, elements useful for advanced manufacturing. Fair trade. Mutual benefit. Corvin approached along the wall. The big warrior moved quieter than something his size should. He had also changed. Now he wore a translator device that allowed him to speak directly to humans without needing Taiho to interpret. He had learned to read human technical manuals. He understood engineering principles. He had become a teacher to other Vrakesh who wanted to learn. "The new water purification system is working well," Corvin reported. "We can now support twice our previous population. More warriors can be stationed here. More workers. The haven grows strong. That was perhaps the biggest change. Water. The resource that had been so desperately scarce was now more abundant. Human technology had solved problems the Vrakesh lived with for generations. Deep drilling systems found underground aquifers. Advanced purification made contaminated water drinkable. Solar collection captured moisture from the air. Water rationing still existed. This was a desert world. Resources were never unlimited. But people no longer died of thirst. No one had to earn every drop through blood and sweat. The freed servants had made their choices. About half left, finding passage to other worlds. Some returned to their home systems. Others sought new lives far from Kravash Prime. Tejo did not blame them. This place held bad memories. But others stayed. Some found they had nowhere else to go. Some had grown to respect the Vrakesh despite everything. Some simply preferred the devil they knew. Whatever their reasons, they became the first employees of Haven Carthrax. Paid workers. Free beings. They had rights now, protections, dignity. Velis stayed. The small, furred alien who had warned Tejo on his first day had become the foreman of the expanded workshop. He managed teams of engineers and technicians from multiple species. He had authority, respect, purpose. When Tejo saw him now, the sadness was gone from his eyes. "You changed my life," Velis had told him once. "I was existing. Now I am living. Thank you." Down in the courtyard, human engineers worked alongside Vrakesh warriors on a new project. They were building additional housing, expanding the fortress. The two species moved together naturally now. The humans had stopped fearing the Vrakesh. The Vrakesh had stopped seeing humans as weak prey. They had found middle ground. It had not been easy. There were misunderstandings, cultural clashes, moments of tension. A human engineer insulted a warrior's honor by accident and nearly started a fight. A Vrakesh broke a human's arm during sparring practice and did not understand why that was a problem. They came from different worlds, different values, different ways of seeing reality, but they learned, they adapted, they communicated, and slowly understanding grew. Captain Daehyun visited monthly. He still did not fully approve of what Tejo was doing, but he could not argue with the results. The alliance was working. Trade was profitable. No one had died. Earth Command saw this as a diplomatic success. "First contact done right. You should come home," Daehyun said during his last visit. "At least for a vacation. See Earth again. Visit your family. You have been here almost a year." Tejo had thought about it. He missed Earth, missed his sister and her kids, missed rain and green grass and oceans. But he also knew he could not leave yet. The alliance was still fragile, still new. It needed someone who understood both sides, someone who could translate not just words but intentions, emotions, cultural context. "Maybe next year," he told Daehyun. "There is still too much work here." "You are going to go native," Daehyun warned. "Forget what it means to be human," Tejo laughed. "I will never forget what it means to be human. Being here has taught me exactly what it means. We adapt, we survive. We build bridges where others build walls. That is humanity's greatest strength now." Standing on the wall with Mirai and Corvin, watching the sun set over a changed world, Tejo felt something he had not felt in a long time. Peace. Not the peace of rest or comfort. The peace of purpose, of knowing you were doing something that mattered. Commander Shira found them there. She had recovered from her wounds months ago. Her authority was stronger than ever. The challenge from Hayek had proven her strength and her commitment to the new path. Even the traditional warriors respected her now. "I have news," Shira said. "The Council of Clans has agreed to meet with Earth representatives, a formal diplomatic summit. They want to see if what we have built here can be replicated across Vrakesh territory." Tejo felt excitement and dread in equal measure. "That is huge. If the Council agrees to widespread alliance, everything changes," Shira finished. "Not just for us. For your species, too. You will have access to dozens of Vrakesh worlds, resources, territory, knowledge. But it also means risk. If this fails, if the summit goes badly, everything we have built could collapse. Then we make sure it does not fail." Shira's golden eyes gleamed. "The Council wants you to attend. They want to meet the human who changed Haven Carthrax, who turned enemies into allies, who taught us that strength comes in many forms. I am not good at politics. You are better than you think. You understand us. You see us not as monsters but as people. That is rare. That is valuable." She paused. You have a title now. The clan elders created it specifically for you. In our language, it is Thaekor. In standard, it means one who walks between. One who exists in two worlds and belongs to both. Taiho tested the word. Thaekor. It felt right. It felt earned. I accept the title. I will attend the summit. I will do everything I can to make this alliance permanent. Mirai put a clawed hand on his shoulder. You will not be alone. I come too. We walk between together, Corvin nodded. And I. The council must hear from warriors who have worked with humans, who have seen what we can build together. Shira looked at the three of them. A human engineer, a young female warrior, a traditional forge master, an unlikely alliance within an unlikely alliance. Good. We leave in 1 month. That gives us time to prepare, to gather evidence of our success, to build our arguments. She looked at Taiho directly. You came here dying of thirst. You found warriors who saw you as food. Now you stand as ambassador between species. How does that feel? Taiho thought about it, about the journey, about everything he had survived and learned and become. It feels like exactly where I am supposed to be. Like every terrible thing that happened led to something good. Like the universe has a weird sense of humor, but maybe it knows what it is doing. As the suns dipped below the horizon, the fortress lights came on. Human technology and Vrakesh power systems working together. The landing pad illuminated. The workshops glowed with activity. Voices carried on the wind. Multiple languages. Multiple species. Working, living, building. Down in the courtyard, a group of young Vrakesh warriors gathered around a human teacher. She was showing them how to program basic systems. They listened intently. One asked a question. She answered with patience. This would have been unthinkable a year ago. Warriors learning from humans, treating knowledge as valuable as combat skill. Change was everywhere. In big ways and small, in attitudes and actions. The Vrakesh were still warriors, still valued strength and honor, but they had expanded their definition of both. Strength was not just physical power. Honor was not just combat prowess. Knowledge was strength. Cooperation was honor. These were human ideas taking root in alien soil. And humans were learning too. Learning about resilience. About traditions that served a purpose. About societies that survived in impossible conditions through sheer will and strength. The Vrakesh had much to teach. Do you ever regret it? Mirai asked suddenly. Staying here instead of going home? Taiho looked at her, at Corvin, at Shira, at the fortress that had been his prison and became his home. No, he said simply.